Do you ever get that eerie feeling when you just know someone's watching you even when no one's supposed to be around? It was 3:27 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember the time because my smartwatch buzzed at the exact second my 12-year-old son, Arman, looked up from his laptop and said, "Dead serious, Mom. Someone's trying to brute force our home network." At first, I thought it was one of his online gaming friends messing around, but Arman isn't your average 12-year-old. He built his first Raspberry Pi when he was 9, and once locked down our smart fridge because it didn't pass his security test. He's tech-savvy in the way most adults only wish they were. That's why when he went pale and started typing furiously, I paused making dinner. "Arman," I asked. He didn't answer. Then calmly said, "They're using a MAC address spoof, but they don't know I just changed the password and locked them out." No? I didn't think too much of it at the time. We'd had issues with neighbors leeching Wi-Fi before, but 2 hours later, the nightmare started. A knock-no, a slam at the door. I opened it to find her. Karen, president of the HOA, the queen of clipped hair. Clipboard and clashing opinions. "I know what your little boy did," she snapped, pointing her finger like a dagger. "You're tampering with HOA infrastructure." "That's a federal crime." I blinked, stunned. "Wait, what? What are you talking about?" Karen didn't blink. "The HOA security system went down today. Cameras stopped working. Doors glitched. Everything tied to the HOA router suddenly stopped. Guess what? The IP trail leads to this house. Now here's where it gets crazy. We aren't even connected to the HOA network. You see, we live in one of those weird suburban layouts where 3 properties are technically inside the HOA zone. But we opted out 5 years ago legally, officially, with signatures and a judge's approval. We're off-grid. They can't bill us, can't monitor us, can't find us. And Karen has never forgiven that. So for her to accuse us of tampering with HOA infrastructure is not just bizarre, it was personal. And then it hit me. Someone had been piggybacking off our Wi-Fi. Karen's system had been using us as a backdoor. And when Arman upgraded our encryption and changed the password, it triggered a full HOA blackout. But what came next? Couldn't have prepared for it. Karen screamed loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. "You'll regret. This, I'll get the board. I'll get the cops. You'll wish you were never born." Armin appeared behind me, calm, focused, holding a tablet. "Mom," he said quietly. "She's lying." I checked the logs. "Their system's been tunneling through our signal for weeks." Karen leaned in, smug. Little boys shouldn't mess with things they don't understand. But Arman, my beautiful, brilliant boy, just swiped through screens and showed me something that made my stomach drop. CCTV feeds. From inside our home, not from our cameras, from theirs. The HOA had been using our network to spy on us, using smart doorbell protocols, motion sensors, and even some bizarre Chinese brand baby cam installed across the street. The footage had timestamps going back months. "Is this legal?" I whispered. "No," Armand said, "not even close." Karen noticed the look on my face, that flicker of panic. She tried to double down. "You signed the waiver," she hissed. "It was in the community packet. You agreed to data integration when you bought the property." I shook my head. "We never signed anything. We opted out, you know that." Karen's jaw clenched. Then she did the most shocking thing yet. She reached into her purse, pulled out a paper and threw it at me. "This says otherwise," she barked. It was a scanned document. Our names, fake signature, HOA watermark. But it wasn't my handwriting. And it sure wasn't my husband's. Armand narrowed his eyes. "That signature's digitally cloned," he muttered. "I can prove it." Karen stormed off, heels clicking like gunshots down the driveway, shouting something about lawyers and city inspections. Armand sat down on the porch, legs crossed, as if nothing had happened. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded. "I think we're going to need a VPN." That night, things escalated faster than I imagined. An unmarked white SUV pulled up to the edge of our street around midnight. Parked, engine running. No one got out. Around 2:14 a.m., Armand woke me up. "Mom, I think they're sniffing our Wi-Fi with a Stingray device. A what? He explained it in a whisper. Stingray mimics a cell tower to intercept data. Highly illegal, but often used. By private investigators, rogue security agents or worse. They're trying to see what we know, he said. Suddenly our lights flickered. Every smart bulb in the house pulsed red. Karen's HOA system was trying to force its way in again. Armand smiled. I have a surprise for them. He clicked a button, and our house went dark. But that wasn't all. 5 seconds later, across the street, Karen's own porch lights exploded. Loud pop, glass shattering. I ran to the window. She was out there in her robe, screaming into the dark. Her own smart system glitching, garage doors opening and closing, sprinklers firing at full force, an emergency alarm blaring intrusion. Detected. My phone buzzed. Armin had sent me a screenshot. HOA system is vulnerable. Suggest immediate legal action. Logs saved to cloud. That's when I realized. My son hadn't just protected us. He'd exposed everything by the next. Morning, Karen was spinning stories to the entire neighborhood. She claimed we hacked the HOA, that Armand was a juvenile criminal trained by hackers, that we were plotting to destabilize the neighborhood. But something about her voice was shrill, desperate, fractured, because while she lied truth, it was already spreading. We didn't even have to say anything. One by one, neighbors knocked on our door, whispering, asking questions. Why is my camera offline? Did you change the password again? Why are there charges from the HOA on my internet bill? Turns out, we weren't the only ones. Karen's entire surveillance setup, every HOA-owned smart device had been leeching bandwidth and data from multiple homes. Without consent, without disclosure, without security. Armin had built a simple script that exposed it all. Scan a MAC addresses tied to HOA access points. All traced back to unauthorized piggybacking. He'd handed me the report that morning. Printed and bound, with tabs. Take this to a lawyer, he said. They can't pretend it's a glitch now. I hugged him. You're amazing, you know that? He smiled and looked away. I just don't like bullies. The real twist. The lawyer we went to was none other than Karen's own cousin. And even he was horrified. Karen's system isn't just illegal, he said. It's criminal. Wiretapping, data theft, falsifying legal documents. She could go to prison. The silence in his office was deafening. But that wasn't even the biggest. Shock of the week, because while we were preparing a cease and desist, Karen tried to retaliate by calling CPS on me. She didn't just show up unannounced this time. It was worse. A social worker knocked at our door, clipboard in hand, eyes darting nervously from her car to our porch. Mrs. Noreen, she asked politely. I need to speak to you about a report we received regarding your son, Armand. Froze. A pit opened in my stomach. My hands felt ice cold. Armin, who'd been fixing the garage lights out back, peeked through the side gate when he heard my voice tremble. What kind of report? I asked slowly. The woman hesitated. We received an anonymous call. The report alleges that your son is being exploited, is forced to participate in cybercrime activities, that he's working all hours of the night. There was even mention of physical neglect. I almost dropped the ceramic mug in my hand. Armand stepped forward. Are you serious? He asked, calm but deeply wounded. You think my mom's forcing me to write code? The social worker seemed unsure of herself now. I just need to do a quick check. It's procedure. I let her in, heart pounding. She walked into our home and looked around, spotless, warm. Family photos on every wall, a half-finished science. Project on the dining table. Cookies cooling on a tray in the kitchen, but then she noticed the multiple monitors in Armand's room, the server rack he'd built from scratch, the whiteboard filled with network topology. I'm going to be honest, she said carefully. This doesn't look like a neglected home, but I have to ask. How did your son get access to this level of equipment? I didn't say a word, Armand answered. I won a youth cybersecurity grant last year, he said.
The state gave me
$2,500 to build a secure home lab? I've been doing workshops with other kids on the weekends. He pulled up the award email on his tablet, along with pictures of him speaking at a local STEM event. The social worker blinked. Her entire demeanor shifted. I'm sorry, she stammered. This doesn't align with the report at all. I said, because the report was fake. Someone's trying to retaliate. And just like that, I saw it in her eyes. She understood. She'd seen this before, when malicious people weaponized child protection services for revenge. She left 15 minutes later, apologizing under her breath. But the damage had been done. Armand wouldn't speak for hours, not out of fear, but humiliation. That someone could twist our lives like that and nearly turn the system against us. He finally broke the silence after dinner. I can't let her get away with this. Mom, she's not just spying. She's manipulating institutions, framing people. Nodded slowly. What are you thinking? I found something buried in their HOA admin panel, he said. She didn't just piggyback on our internet. She accessed private camera feeds. From 4 other homes? My jaw dropped. Are you serious?
Oh.
He turned his laptop toward me. There it was, recorded footage of a neighbor's backyard barbecue. Another of an elderly man walking shirtless through his living room. All recorded through devices they didn't own. Armand's fingers danced across the keyboard. Oh, and check this. Each file is tagged with a numeric label. It's like she's building dossiers. Suddenly made sense. Karen wasn't just nosy. She was obsessed. Collecting data. Holding on to it. Blackmail. Manipulation. Who knows? My phone buzzed. It was Maya, our next-door neighbor. She had always been polite, if a little distant. But this time her voice was shaking. I heard you had. CPS called on you. I think Karen's behind something similar with us. We got a surprise home safety inspection last week. The same pattern, a different target. This wasn't paranoia. This was war. The next day, a man showed up at our doorstep. Mid-50s, in a perfectly pressed gray suit. He introduced himself as Mark DeWitt, an IT contractor who used to work with the HOA. Used to. He had seen the posts Armand quietly shared online. Nothing public. Just a few encrypted breadcrumbs in niche forums, and he tracked us down. I helped. Install the HOA's surveillance backbone 2 years ago, he said. Back when it was still legal, before Karen rewired the protocols. I walked away when she started splicing it with private home networks. Why are you here? I asked, cautious. Because your son just revealed the whole infrastructure. To me, and if I'm seeing it, others will too. People who won't give you a chance to explain, people who'll exploit it. My heart dropped again. I glanced at Armand, who gave me a faint nod. He's right, he whispered. I posted the encrypted source code. It's out. Mark leaned in. You need to make the next move now. Before. Karen turns this around and paints you as the hacker. So that's exactly what we did. We compiled every log, every signal trace, every image. Armand wrote a full breakdown, explaining how the system was misused. When the intrusion began and what was affected, we submitted it to the city's cybercrimes unit. Then we went to the press. At first, felt like shouting into the void. No, one wants to believe the nice. HOA Queen could be orchestrating a digital surveillance scheme from a cozy 2-story home with pink flamingo yard ornaments. But once we handed over the footage, things changed fast. By the end of the week, the HOA website was down. Every homeowner received an emergency letter stating the entire board was under external investigation. Karen, she vanished for 2 days, then resurfaced at the community. Meeting trembling but trying to play calm. Everything being said is blown out of proportion, she said. The HOA has every right to ensure neighborhood safety. Our devices were never meant to spy. But by then the screenshots had spread. Forums lit up. News stations began circling. And just when she thought it couldn't get worse, Armand, calm and dressed in a collared shirt, raised his hand from the back of the room. I have a question, he said. Why did your surveillance feed include footage from inside our garage when your own system's range doesn't reach that far? Karen froze. The entire room turned to her. He continued, unless, of course, you were tapping into private devices using unauthorized access protocols, using our Wi-Fi as a relay. Out. without consent, which is a federal offense under the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. Silence. Someone clapped in the back. Then another. Then the whole room broke into murmurs. Karen ran out. But the fight wasn't over, because we discovered something else, something none of us saw coming, tucked inside. The HOA system logs was a hidden directory, encrypted, obscure, buried so deep. It took Armand 3 days to open it. When he did, his face went pale. I looked at the screen and whispered, "Oh my God, there were files on people. Private messages, security questions, bank usernames, password resets, and in the middle of it all, profile with my name on it. A file labeled target_001_mnornay. Opened it. There were notes, dates, even photos from our vacation last summer, photos we never pat online. Karen hadn't been collecting security footage. She'd been building control. Profiles on everyone. We immediately reported everything. The DA's office stepped in. A formal criminal investigation began. But that didn't stop her. The next night, she showed up at our house, alone. No clipboard, no smug smile. Just fear in her eyes. "Please," she whispered. "You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to go this far." "Then why did it?" I asked. Her voice trembled. "Because I thought I was protecting people." And Armand said, "What I'll never forget. You weren't protecting anyone. You were playing God." She looked at him like she'd seen a ghost, then turned and walked away. No apology, no remorse. But the shock wasn't that she'd walked away. It was what she left behind. A USB drive with a note. "Use it. It will explain everything," is what we found on it. Was bigger than Karen, bigger than the HOA, and linked to a government contract we never knew existed. You won't believe what was really going on. Keep watching till the end, because in the next moments, everything we knew about our home, our neighborhood, and even Armand's past, shattered. The drive was cold to the touch. Armand turned it over slowly, almost like it might detonate if he moved too fast. It wasn't labeled. No stickers, no scratches. Just a matte black shell and that single handwritten note. "Use it. It will explain everything." We plugged it in, of course. Not into any of our main devices. Armand insisted we use the sandbox laptop he built for isolated threats. No internet connection, no Bluetooth. Just him, me, and that soft electric hum of a hard drive. Spinning to life, it auto-launched a single folder. Inside were exactly 6 files, 5 labeled with strings. Of numbers, probably dates. And one simply called Osprey_protocol_overview.pdf. I'll never forget the sound Armand made when he opened it. Not a gasp. Not a word. Just a low, involuntary sound in the back of his throat, like something broke loose inside him. "What is it?" I asked. He scrolled for a few seconds, then turned the screen to me. It wasn't just a document. It was a blueprint. A surveillance program, military grade, with nodes and control trees showing integration into civilian communities. And a pilot project approved by a shadowy subdivision of a federal agency I'd never heard of. And right there, under the pilot zone 07B authorization section, was our zip code. Our neighborhood. "I think Karen didn't build this," Armand whispered. "I think she inherited it." Now the stakes were so much higher than just HOA drama. Suddenly, everything made more sense. Why her equipment was so sophisticated. Why her access reached into homes. Even she didn't administrate. Why she was so desperate to silence anyone who poked too deep. She wasn't just misusing a neighborhood system. She was sitting on top of a dismantled military surveillance node one she kept alive long after it had supposedly been shut down. The documents confirmed it. Program Osprey was decommissioned in 2019 after ethical violations emerged. Local test coordinators were instructed to destroy all hardware and scrub software traces from public-facing infrastructure. But Karen hadn't destroyed anything. She'd kept it, hid it, possibly used it to manipulate elections for HOA board control. possibly to blackmail homeowners into compliance. Possibly more. I turned to Armand. Is this why she left that drive? Because she knew we were getting too close. He nodded. Or because someone else is watching. And she wants out. The next morning, our house was too quiet. Even the birds seemed to stay away. Around 10 a.m., we heard the sound of a truck, no engine, just tires on gravel. A white panel van. No logos. It parked across the street, no one got out. Armand quietly. Powered down everything in the house, phones, Wi-Fi, even the fridge, just in case. Then he activated his emergency air-gapped setup, a separate laptop. It's a solar-powered battery and a connection routed through 3 countries. He looked at me and said, "They know." Who? I asked. Not just Karen. Whoever gave her this. We left the house, no talking. We went to a public library 20 miles away. Armand logged into his secure drive and uploaded the entire contents of the USB to 3 journalists he trusted. All of them from privacy-focused outlets. He didn't wait. For their replies, he simply hit send and said, "Now it can't be buried." We thought that would be the end of it. We were wrong that night. While we were still at a motel, Karen called my cell. Her voice was unrecognizable, raw, cracked like she'd been crying for hours. I tried to shut it down, she said. It doesn't shut down, I don't think. I don't think it ever stopped. I think it's still active. Just ... in a different form. What do you mean? I asked. She didn't answer directly. You need to get your son somewhere safe, she said. He tripped something. There are people looking for him, not me, not the board. Higher. And then the line went dead. Armand sat still, just quiet. Like he was processing something deeper than fear. Mom, he said, I found a name in the logs. It was buried in one of the encrypted folders on the drive. He showed me. Project Griffin, handler. K. Noreen. My heart stopped. That was my name. Except I'd never worked for any agency, never participated in any pilot. I was just a teacher before I became a stay-at-home mom. Right? I whispered. They think it's me? No, he said slowly. They think I'm you, because it wasn't just an HOA spying network. It was a recruitment and profiling system, and I wasn't the one they'd been tracking for years. He was his code, his patterns, his neural response tests. They had data on his cognitive processing speeds going back to when he was 8 even. The grant he won was fake. The check came from a shell company tied to a contractor listed in the Osprey documents. He was never supposed to uncover the network. He was supposed to. He'd become a part of it. I couldn't breathe. And then it all came back. The times Armand said his old laptop moved slow for no reason. The grant administrator who never met him in person. The camera in the corner of the competition room that wasn't on. I sat down. They've been grooming you, I whispered. He nodded. Training me without telling me, he said.
Aston, what'd I do if I discovered the wrong thing?
Karen wasn't the final boss. She was just the failsafe. The next night, someone tried to break into our motel room. We heard at 3:16 a.m. lock, turning, handle moving. Armand had already anticipated this. He'd rigged a physical tripwire. Using dental floss and a $4 door, alarm from the gas station, it screamed. The man outside ran. We didn't sleep again. By dawn, Armand made a decision. We have to leak it all, he said. Publicly. Not just to journalists. Everyone. And so he did. A full dump of the Osprey protocol. Anonymized, but traceable. Every signature, every node, every name Karen had accessed. And, just like that, the internet caught fire, Reddit exploded. Tech watchdogs confirmed it. The tech was real. The logs were real. The contractor names matched. Even the federal agency that supposedly shut it all down was forced to issue a statement. They called it an unauthorized civilian continuation of a decommissioned program. But no one believed them. The neighborhood was in chaos. Families demanded answers. The HOA board collapsed within 2 days. Karen disappeared. Her house was raided by men in gray suits, and all her smart equipment, every last motion detector, Ring doorbell, and smart speaker was removed, and Armand. He was offered a scholarship to a top tech institute. He declined. "I'm not joining the system," he said. "I'm going to build something better. And me." I stood on the porch 2 weeks later, watching as trucks hauled away the last remnants of the surveillance network from our street. Neighbors nodded at me. Some hugged me. But I could still feel the eyes, digital or human eye. Didn't know. What I did know was this. My son's curiosity saved us. His courage exposed them. But even after all that, one question still haunted me. Why did Karen choose us? And that answer would come not from the files, but from a knock on the door. From someone I hadn't seen in 16 years. Someone who knew the truth. Someone who looked at Armand and said, "Your father wanted you to have a choice, but he didn't. Make it out in time." And just like that, our story started all over again. There was something surreal about seeing his face again. Older, thinner, eyes sunken with the kind of weight that time can't measure. He looked at Armand like he'd seen a ghost, or maybe like he was looking into a mirror of his past. I stepped between them. "I don't know who you are," I said, voice shaking. "But you don't get to just show up after 16 years. He didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. "My name is Elias," he said. "I worked with your husband, before everything went dark." My man looked at me. "My dad," he whispered. I hadn't told him much, just that his father had been in communications security, that he'd died in a car accident when Armin was a baby, that the wreckage was too damaged to even hold a funeral. But Elias shook his head. He didn't die, not then. They made it look like he did. My knees buckle. "What are you saying?" Elias walked in slowly, hands raised in peace. "I'm saying Armand wasn't chosen at random. He was made. Your husband volunteered for Project Osprey. He believed in its mission before it turned into what it became." He looked at Armand again. But when he realized they weren't just testing surveillance, but grooming children, mapping genetic traits tied to cognitive acceleration, he tried to get out. My chest burned. "He told me we were safe," I whispered. Elias nodded. "He tried to protect you. He changed your identities, deleted you from the system. He thought he got away clean, and it let him believe that, right up until the day his car exploded." Armand turned away. He didn't speak for a long time. When he did, his voice was sharper than I'd ever heard it. "So they murdered my father. Then tried to turn me into him." "Yes," Elias said. "And Karen was just their mole. A coordinator. She was never the mastermind, just the handler keeping tabs on anomalies." Armand paced the room. "Then why come here now?" he asked Dad Elias. Pulled a slim tablet from his coat, set it on the table. "Because they're coming again. This time they won't send vans. They'll send lawyers, courts, warrants. They'll make it look legal." He tapped the screen. A list of names appeared: judges, prosecutors, HOA board members, city council representatives, all flagged under Osprey's shadow tier. "Every one of them has ties to the program," Elias said. "If they can't silence you with fear, they'll bury you in red tape, make you look like the criminal." "But we exposed everything," I said. "We released the logs. People know." Lise gave a bitter smile. "And tomorrow, a news story. We'll run, saying the whole thing was a hoax. A teenage hacker faking government files for internet fame, a grieving mother caught in delusion. They're already spinning the narrative." Armand walked over, calm now. "What do we do?" Elias paused. "We go further. We pull the plug not just on Karen's network, but on the entire Osprey architecture. We show people how it's still active in dozens of communities, schools, churches." He handed Armand a data shard. It says backdoor keys. It's keys your father embedded. "He was working on a kill switch before they got to him." "Why me?" Armand asked. "Why did he pass it to me?" "Because you were never supposed to be part of the system. You were supposed to end it." We sat in silence. And then Armand nodded. "I'll do it, but on one condition." Elias raised an eyebrow. "I choose how we fight." That night we left the city. Disappeared into a small off-grid cabin Elias had kept hidden. Armin rebuilt his system from scratch. No old code, no footprints, just pure architecture, isolated, secure. He called it Wren, a play on Osprey, same bird family. Different philosophy. where Osprey watched and controlled. Ren protected and warned. Within a week, he launched a prototype. A decentralized detection platform that allowed any homeowner to scan their smart systems for unauthorized signal routes, even those disguised in firmware. The results? It's terrifying. Thousands of households across the country discovered hidden pings. Background connections? Dormant surveillance nodes. It didn't matter if the devices were new, old, or turned off. If they'd been exposed to the Osprey grid, they were tagged. Armin's code lit up the map like a virus, and for once, the virus was fighting them. Tech channels picked it up. Then whistleblower groups, then a class action lawsuit. By the end of the month, the DOJ launched a full investigation into civilian surveillance programs. Congressional hearings were scheduled, and Armin was invited to testify. He declined. "I don't need a podium," he said. "I need to finish the code." But he gave them one thing, the final log file. Not from the USB Karen left. Not from the servers he cracked, but from the device inside our home. One I didn't know existed. My old smart TV, buried in its startup sequence, was a single handshake packet, sent every time it powered on, signal that verified Armin's ID. It was never just about watching him, it was about tracking his evolution. His entire life was a test, but now, the test was over. Karen was arrested. 2 weeks later, in a private airstrip, trying to flee the country, she'd shaved her head, burned every document. But her voice was unmistakable when she screamed at the officers, "You don't know what's coming." He was never supposed to wake up. I watched the footage on a cracked phone screen. I don't know if I pitied her or feared the people she was talking about, but it didn't matter, because Armin wasn't afraid. He was building something new, not just code. A network of kids like him, curious, gifted, mistrustful of systems, that claimed to protect while stealing their voices. He called it Project Ren, and it spread faster than Osprey ever did, because this time, code was open. Dash source. This time, truth was viral and me. I finally told him everything, about his father, about the threats I'd kept hidden, the life we could never go back to. He just hugged me. "You kept me safe," he said. "Now let me return the favor." Oh. And as I stood beside him, watching the final version of Ren go live, I realized something I'd buried long ago. They never expected a mother, son to fight back. They expected silence, compliance, surrender, but they forgot. You don't mess with a tech prodigy raised by a woman who knows what it means to lose everything and still show up with a full heart. You don't mess with truth that's been waiting for 16 years, and you never mess with a child who's no longer playing their game because they've built a better one. So to anyone watching, stay curious, stay alert, and never stop asking who's watching you until the answer is no one. Because if they thought Armin was the only one, they were. Dead wrong, your kid might be next. And maybe that's exactly what they fear most.